Hey, Locked On Angels Hall of Famer Steve Granado joins us today, and we're asking him the following questions. What should the new owner do the first day that they take over? How would you improve the Halos, trade, free agency, minor leaguers? And what do you remember from this last season that you want to remember, and what would you like to forget? You're Locked On with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And the best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. Super Halo Mom would appreciate 5 stars. And those watching on YouTube, you can help the show by giving us a like, a comment, a subscribe, and clicking the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops.
We're so glad that you decided to join us for this edition of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we are joined by Locked On Angels legend, the man himself, Steve Granado. Welcome back to Locked On Angels, my friend.
Woo!
Okay, so it's been a while.
Yes.
Something happened in my brain there that was a little triggering. The intro.
Yes.
Yep.
As we came to the end of the intro, for listeners of Locked On Angels, hello, it's me again. I'm here to yell at you. But the last time I was listening to that, I listened to the show. You know, I jumped in. I didn't dip out. I'm still a Halo fan. But the last time it played while I was as a host, had the locked the bars, the jail bars going across the screen, and
That's
did the
right, for the
slam
lockout.
shut because it was the lockout. It was the last time I was on Locked On Angels.
Yeah.
So that was just like a pneumatic sound in my brain. Just I heard. So been a while, I guess.
It's been a while. Do you need to lay down and get some therapy? I mean, we can take a show
The
and just talk to you.
The lockout ended, right? It's over.
It did.
It did, and then
Okay.
we got the
Figured it
fun
out.
part after you were done with the lockout. We got to take over for the fun part.
We played like a whole season. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Bro, you did the off season, and then there was a lockout, and then you didn't even get to like talk about games. What a trooper you are, man! You're a hero.
I did like a week of baseball. I think the last week. I think we were in Oakland.
That's right.
Shohei hit his last ball, or maybe the Seattle series. I think it did the Seattle, that big 3-aimer in Seattle that knocked them out. Yeah, 2021, baby. What a year.
Funny enough,
Wow.
2021 was a better year than 2022 at the end of the day.
Yeah, unfortunately.
In terms of record, at least.
Yeah,
But
sure.
no, we're so glad that you are here with us, and of course, longtime Angel fans, and of course, Locked On Angels listeners will remember you from last season and the off season. And we just wanted to have you back and check in and see how you were doing, and also get your thoughts on the past season and what's to come for the Halos. But we know that you have been up to a lot since you've been done at Locked On Angels. What have you been up to in this last season? Tell everyone about that.
Yeah, man, I was out. I didn't get to announce it on the show formally. Unfortunately, at the time, it was still hush hush. But I was out this season in Scranton Wilkes-Barre, covering the Rail Riders, AAA affiliate of the Yankees, and man, it was a heck of a ride, and got to cover guys like Oswaldo Cabrera and Oswald Peraza and Rob Brantley, and had a lot of fun out there. It was a very roller coaster season. The trade deadline really messed with us. We had a bunch of injuries and a bunch of call ups, and yeah, it was a year, man. It was something. It's a little different than the Locked On Angels world. We started off awful, just a really, really bad start, like worst start franchise history type stuff.
Wow.
That was when it was like best start in franchise history here on the West Coast. So it was,
Yeah.
I remember like we were talking a little bit about it and being like, well, man, I'll trade places if you wanna swap. I ended up getting a little bit better of a season than you guys did
That's right.
ultimately, but yeah, no, it was fun, man. It was crazy. Of course, I missed doing Locked On Angels. Again, if you're watching on the YouTube side, longtime listeners, I'm sure you remember this setup. This hasn't been touched because I moved across the country. I was on the other side of the country for 8 months or so, or 7 months, whatever it ended up being. But yeah, it was a summer, man. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was
Well, and
that? How was that transition for you, going from West Coast to East Coast and getting a place out there and getting set up out there? How did that go?
Yeah, I'd done it a couple of times. Summer college ball, Coastal Plain League, did some play-by-play out there a couple seasons in a row. I was in West Virginia a couple years ago too, with the now unaffiliated West Virginia Power. So I had made that transition a couple of times. This time not single, so that made it a little more difficult. Having to leave the girlfriend behind was very tough. Came back when I could and got out to one Angels game this season. I did end up getting out to an Angels game this year. Went to the City Connect night. So that was a great night.
right.
That was an awesome night.
Yeah, the Jared
Yeah.
Walsh
Jared
cycle
Walsh,
night, right?
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Great night for Walsh. So that was a great night. But yeah, aside from that, the typical transition, work in baseball, a lot of hours and, grueling days and bus travel and that kind of stuff. So it was, it's part of it, man. It's fun.
Yeah. Hey, I believe that was you that actually hooked the brothers up. You actually helped us to pronounce Logan O'Hoppe.
Yeah.
You saved me that
I
day.
had O'Hoppe. I called a couple of games, Arizona Fall League last year, and that's when I was introduced to O'Hoppe. So that was one I was like, O'Hoppe.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
so when I saw it right away, I was like, I can help. I finally can help with something. Here you go. I know this
unprompted.
one.
Steve reached out and was like, "By the way, it's O'Hoppe." I was like, "Thank you so much," because I think at that point I had already sent out a video that was like Logan O'Hoppe.
Yeah, that's when I saw it. I saw it and I was like, "Yeah, let me help you out."
Yes,
That's great.
That was perfect.
Yeah. How about following the Angels all the way on the East Coast? How close have you followed the team this last season?
Yeah, man. East Coast, so it's a lot harder. The one saving grace is we're done by the time the Halos are starting, so that gave me a couple extra games I was able to toss in. Probably like this season, I probably watched like 5 to 10 full games. When you're covering 150. Like, how many more do I gotta watch?
Right.
Yeah.
I love this sport with all my heart and soul, but like, I would like to watch, The Bear or anything else.
Yes.
Right.
Family Guy, anything. I'll watch
Yes.
anything else, just to get my mind off of it. But I ended up watching like 5 to 10 full games, and obviously keeping tabs and following what's going on. And I popped on Locked In Angels every now and then, and made sure I'd listen, make sure you guys didn't mess up my show too much, and you guys did.
Yeah.
I think we've been able to hold it down.
Yeah. What do you remember from this last season that you would like be excited about? And then same question for like negative. When you look back at this season, here's this one moment that you're thinking about, you're celebrating, and then what's the one moment where you're like, I'd love to forget about that?
Woo. I watched. So this is weird. So of those minuscule games that I actually ended up getting to watch all season, one of them was Detmers.
Nice.
Awesome.
Great
full
choice.
game. And like, that was one of the days where I was just like, I think we had like a day game and it was an off day the next day, whatever. I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but whatever. I was like, oh yeah, the Angels are playing. Like, I'll throw it on. And like at first pitch, threw it on and just had it on. And I was like, this is happening. Then it was Shohei's like whatever, like 8 and whatever it was, that one that I flipped that one on. And I was like, Shohei's like, I was like, it's one of the last times he's going to get to pitch here, so I might as well flip it on. And lo and behold, so those were kind of a stroke of luck, honestly, to be able to watch that. And I was paying a lot of attention early part of the season when it was great, and I was like, oh, here we go,
Yeah.
like everybody else was, I'm sure. But yeah, that losing streak, that was when I started really tuning into you guys. Was I was like, what are you guys doing? What are you saying? Like, I gotta hear what these guys are saying right now.
Yeah.
That was brutal, man. That was a brutal run. That was one of the most brutal runs I can think of in any sport that I follow, man. That was tough. That was really tough.
Yeah.
I think our brains were a little bit fried by the end of it, because at first it's frustrating, and then at the end of it, I think we were kind of Joker laughing, just like,
yes.
What else can you say?
Like,
what
you
else
lose your
can you
mind. What was that one? There was that one game. Oh, man, it was a Sunday. I was leaving the ballpark and I turned it on. I think we were in Philly.
It was a Philly game. Yeah.
Was somebody walked
Harper
off,
hit a
right?
grand slam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rysel,
That I had that game on.
Yeah.
I put that game on. I was on my way to shout out to a local band, Thrice. I was on my way to a Thrice
Hey,
concert
Nice.
in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And I had like an hour drive, so I flipped on the last, 2 innings in the Angels game. So I blew that one. That's on me.
Darn it, I was just
yeah.
gonna say we need you
Yeah.
to tune into more games because you had Reed Detmers and then you had Ohtani, but you know, if you were part of
that's the one.
the
That was the
Rysel
first
implosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was terrible. There was a couple of times where we would get ready to do the show. John and I would just look at each other and go,
Nope.
Well, here it is.
Here we are
And we've been
again.
accused of being like super positive, but it was really hard to be any sort of positive during that losing streak. It was like,
that's like,
what are we going to talk about right now? Where's Steve? We need Steve to come on and get mad.
That was like Control A delete, like on your
Yes.
script, right? You're just like, I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're gonna start
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Do we talk about
Tough,
the
man.
1 for 4 from David Fletcher and nobody else getting hits, or what do we?
Yeah.
what do we talk about
seriously.
here? You know,
You're like, I gotta
Good
fill
stuff.
20 how many minutes? What?
Yeah. Well, coming up on Locked On Angels, we're going to ask Steve about how he would improve our Halos. So we're looking forward to that. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at Roan. Man, we love to look good and we love to feel good while we look good, which is why you need Roan in your life. It's a men's clothing line that will help you to look good and feel good. Roan fits each man perfectly, never uncomfortable, never tight. They always have your size, especially with their commuter shirt. This is one of the most comfortable, breathable, flexible shirts known to man. And here's why. Roan's got a 4-way stretch fabric, and it provides breathability and flexibility for that dad bod. So I love these shirts. And it leaves you free to enjoy what life throws at you, whether you're commuting to work or you got 18 holes. Roan's got your back and your front. And with Roan, they make looking good look easy. They've got this wrinkle release technology. If you have wrinkles in your shirts, you literally pull on your shirt, you stretch it out, and it gets rid of the wrinkles. And they don't want you to stink, so they've got Gold Fusion, which is an anti-odor technology. So not only are you looking good, but you'll be smelling so fresh and so clean. Plus, with Roan, 100% machine washable, so you can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. So head to roan.com/lockedon and use our promo code LOCKEDON to save 20% off of your order. That's RHONE.com/lockedon and use the promo code LOCKEDON. Again, get 20% off. The website again, RHONE.com/lockedon and use our promo code LOCKEDON to get 20% off your order. Go to roan.com today.
We want to
Like
thank
a
you for
pro.
making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. And for your second listen, you can check out Locked On Sports today. You can go from the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. How about Brandon Marsh hitting a home run in that game last night?
boy.
Youngest
Caveman.
Philly in the World Series hit a home run. How about that? Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today is available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, Steve, I'm sure that you're like every Angel fan. You have all of the decisions that you would make if you were the owner. Here's how you're going to fix the Angels, right? And that's been the conversation for the last few weeks on YouTube and also on our Twitter and Instagram. So we want to give you the floor. And I want to give you the floor specifically because when Artie announced that he was going to trade, or not trade, he was going to sell the team, you tweeted out something that was great.
Trade the
team. Yeah,
Trade
just
them all.
them away.
Nobody would
No,
trade
no.
with Artie, that's for sure.
Get rid
Angels
of
for
everybody.
Philly, straight up.
I think I'll take it. And so
Yeah.
you actually tweeted out, like, here's what I would do if I was the owner. So would you share some of those thoughts with us? Because I thought it was great. Some of the things you put out there were awesome.
Yeah, everything I said was like not baseball related. Like
Right.
just
Mhm.
as the fan, right? Like as the fan experience. Like yes, all of
Right.
us want to win. Like caveat there. Duh. We all want to win. That's the whole point. That's what we do. Yada 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 yada. Like majority of the time too, like you're just going to the ballpark like you want to have a good time. Like
Yep.
so like I mentioned, lived back in Pennsylvania this summer and just got back here not too long ago. So back here in California, back here in Anaheim, right by the stadium, still super close, still see it every day. And that big A looks awful. Like, what is going on with that A, dude? It's like brown.
Yeah.
That thing needs
Yeah.
a paint job so bad.
Mhm.
It's like embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, it's sad. Like, they painted the Honda Center not too long ago, a couple years ago. And it was just like, whoa, yeah, I forgot that's what it looked like.
Uh-huh.
That's what the pond was. Like, this looks great. This ain't like Angels Stadium needs a paint job, like really, really bad. Like the green is all faded, like the hats look sad. Like it's sad. Like this, and I know there's the contract in the city of Anaheim. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. But like again, you're asking me if like I'm not going
Yep.
to own the Angels, so this is what I would do. It's like, yeah,
Right.
dude, that first and foremost, dude, that place is looking tough. And
That
it's
paint
crazy
job
too.
is
It's
like a
like
reflection of our soul, right? Like
pretty much, yeah, I feel
something.
downtrodden.
team.
It's like when Hercules falls into like the underworld, right? And like
Mhm.
he's all like gray and like shriveled. That's what it feels like. Like, and what's crazy
It's
is
the
the
upside
ballpark's
down. That's what it is.
It's the upside
down.
There you go. A little late. We're a little past Halloween,
Right.
but I'll let it play. Yeah, no, it's just the stadium needs a facelift. Like what's crazy is like the infrastructure of it. I mean, without having any architectural degree, just outside looking in or inside looking in, it's still great. Like the ballpark's great. Like it's still like I went to a couple of new ballparks this year. I got to go out to Fenway, Yankee Stadium, and stuff, and
Awesome.
obviously see plenty of minor league ballparks this year. But like the stadium itself is still like it's still a great experience. Like it's easy to get in, easy to get out. Like everywhere you walk, except for like behind home plate, you can still see, from the field, see the field from the concourse and stuff. Like it is still a really good experience out of the ballpark. Left center field needs something badly, like behind the rock pile, like to the left of the rock pile. I remember the like the race Erstad thing and that they used to be out there in left center. Yeah, like without the pool house home run counter, like what's even there anymore? Like a Colt stand. Like what are we doing? Like something needs to happen there. I'd pitch like a raised platform or something to get some more fans to kind of like a hangout area just to watch, or gosh, I don't know, like a bounce house for kids, something like something.
There's
needs
so
to go
much
there.
space out there. They could do anything.
So much space, dude.
Yeah.
And like when there's no one at the ballpark because you're losing 400 games in a row, like it's not getting filled up. Like you got to do something. Yeah. So it's just a lot of that fan experience stuff, man, that has plagued, I think, the Angels. And I want to, when I used to host a show, I used to compare the Angels to the Ducks all the time because it was the obvious thing. I mean, if you saw the Dia de los Muertos celebration from the Ducks, I mean, just unreal, incredible, like connecting with the city. And they had artists from Anaheim, Santa Ana, Orange. Like, can you imagine the Angels doing anything like that? Just like actually reaching out to the community, pulling everybody together. Like, that's what I love so much about being a Ducks fan is like the community aspect. And like, we're all like, hey, the Ducks are in a rebuild. Like, it's tough, but hey, we got Trevor Zegras, we got Jamie Drysdale 4 to 6 months. I know he's out, but like that's like the things like what Angels fans have been clinging to. Is like, oh, we got Trout, we got Shohei. Well, maybe Rendon won't get hurt this year. Like we're all clinging to that, but the team doesn't necessarily like garner that community when there's so much community around the stadium, around the city. Like there's a lot that needs to be done. And I think they started to do it. They've started a little bit. I know they hired a new game production person, the person that used to be in charge of the Ducks game day production. And so I know that there are a lot of things that are being done in that regard to help the fan experience. But that's just like so super important to me. And it's like why shows like this like thrive, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's why it all works out.
It reminds me of I talked to Mike about going to the All-Star game at Dodger Stadium, and I haven't spent a lot of time at Dodger Stadium, but the experience is incredible, and just everything that they had there, and just the way that they celebrate the culture of Los Angeles and the different areas, like it just felt very. Even though
it's an event, you're going to an event. I compare this all the time. When you go to a Ducks game, you go to a Lakers game, you go to a Dodgers game. It's an event. You're going to something. When you go to an Angels game, you're going to an Angels game, if that makes any sense. You're not going to an event. There's no pomp and circumstance. There's no, wow, we're about to see Shohei Ohtani. We're about to see Mike Trout, some of the greatest players that have ever played this game. That's like, for whatever reason, there's that disconnect. I don't know what it is. And I'm sure, you guys have talked about it. And if you watch Locked On Angels while I hosted it, I made my feelings about Artie Moreno very clear. I think it starts with him. I think it's a lot of the issues have to do with Artie. So the sooner he's gone, I think the sooner you can repair a lot of issues.
Yeah, and relationships with the city and players and all the past players who have kind of disconnected from the Angels.
Current players,
current players,
everybody,
absolutely.
coaching staff, there's so many severed relationships, man. It's heartbreaking, right? It's heartbreaking. Like, I'll be honest with you guys, like this summer, really tested my fandom. Until the announcement that Artie's thinking about getting out. I was straight up, and I'm not lying. I'm like, I'm just gonna be a Dodgers fan, dude. but really though, why not? Like, at least they do things right over there in LA.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They treat their fan base like they should. And you see a lot of teams do that. Look at San Diego. Look how they treat their fan base.
Yeah.
There's no reason the Angels can't do that. There's just there's no excuse. There's no excuse.
It's like open ocean in terms of how to improve and how to get better. And there's just really nothing standing in the way other than new ownership.
Yeah,
it really
that
ASAP.
It's so frustrating because, like, I mean, I've been following this team since I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like, and all of us have. But when the team doesn't give you anything, why do they expect something from us?
Right. Excellent.
It's like this is a two-way relationship, bro. You want my $20 to get into the gates. You want my $20 for a michelada. Like, you got to give me something back, man. You got to give me something back. You're just robbing me at this point.
Yeah. 100%. And you brought up a good point on ownership, and then you mentioned Trout and Ohtani. And this was kind of going back even to, the last offseason when you were hosting, and it was a question around Ohtani, but is he going to stay, and what can the Halos do to help him stay? Or do you see him moving on? Perhaps he gets traded, perhaps at the deadline he gets moved, perhaps he just rides out this contract and goes on to another team. What do you see happening in terms of Shohei Ohtani?
Dude, it's a little weird. Right. It's really weird because of this ownership situation. I know you guys had mentioned, I believe it was you guys who had mentioned that, maybe Artie goes in and signs that contract to make selling the Angels more lucrative.
Yes.
Or you can see it from the reverse side where you're going like, dude, I'm out of here. Like, graduation goggles. Like, I'm done, bro. Like, I don't need to do homework. I ain't going to class. Like, I'm done. So there's multiple ways to look at it. I never try to guess what players are going to do. It's their careers. They are fully 100% able to do whatever they want. And I will always support that. More power to the players, always, 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
If he wants to leave, he should leave. It hurts as a fan. As an Angels fan, I think as a baseball fan, it might be beneficial if he left.
Oh, especially for him.
Yeah, if he goes somewhere where they're going to treat him correctly. And that's not to say I think, there's internal issues in that regard. And I don't know. If I were him, I'd leave. I think I would. Respectfully, as he's always done. He's never given any signs that he wouldn't do that, respectfully. But it's his career, man. Like, all these players take ownership of your career. That's what this whole lockout was about, right?
Right.
Was that CBAs to take ownership of your careers. They're short. Right? You never know what's going to happen. Make your bag when you can, get paid, and play where you want to play. He only got like 20 years max. Like, that's nothing. So do what you want to do. And I will always support Shohei. I'll support Trouty. I'll support players who want to take ownership of their careers. And I think they have every right to do so.
Definitely.
Yeah, and speaking of getting paid, Mike Trout, the greatest of all time, he was supposed to retire because of that back injury this year. At least that was the narrative, right? And so tell me about Mike. You still see him as the GOAT. What are your expectations for Mike next season?
Well, one, I think his back's okay. I saw him throwing his kid in the air.
Yes,
the Halloween.
that was a great video.
That was a good video. So I think he's feeling great. And I think, what was it? How many homers in a row? 7, 6, whatever it was?
7. Yeah.
7. Yeah. See, I was watching.
There you go.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, it's still Trout. Like, what are we even talking about? Of course, yeah.
Right.
The question's always been health. That's a question for every player ever. That was a question about Kareem. Like, this is a question about everybody, man. Can he stay healthy? I think he can. He's done it before. I think it's unrealistic to think as he gets older that injuries aren't going to keep popping up. It's just how it is, man.
Right.
there's only so many guys that are freaks of nature in health. Most aren't. 99% aren't. So yeah, he's probably going to miss some games next year, man. And hopefully that's it, right? That's the goal. Is it's
Yes.
only all right. He's out for 10,
Right.
Right.
a 7-day back spasm, whatever, and that's it. I mean, look at Harper, right? Look at what Harper, that they've been compared since day one, right? And look what he has done this postseason, like batting like 400. So Trout just needs that moment. And unfortunately, it's not Trout that's going to get him there.
Yes.
Because he would have been there by now if that were the case.
100
Baseball's
times
not basketball. So it's unfortunate, but Trout needs his Harper moment, and Harper got his. That LCS bomb, Game 3 bomb, and who knows what else that dude's about to do. He's on another planet right now. And there is no reason for me to believe that Mike Trout can't do the exact same thing, if not better. I mean, he has bested, for as incredible as Bryce Harper has been throughout his career, he's bested Harper in almost every category. Maybe save like his arm. Like maybe Harper's probably got a better arm. Like that's about it.
Absolutely. Hey, so let's go on to a few more questions before we wrap up this episode. Of course, we have Locked On Angels Hall of Famer Steve Granado with us, and you can get him at Steve Granado on Twitter, of course. Steve, as we look ahead to the offseason, what are some things, if Steve Granado were the GM of the Angels, what were some things that you would do to improve our Halos?
Whew, man. Another big one from you. Another big one from the Fish Boys.
We did our GM stuff. Now we want to know. We want to know what you think.
Now we want the right answers. That's what we want. The right answers.
There you go.
Yeah. I think the answers are always going to be the same, right? They've been the same for years, and the pitching and yeah. I still I think that this offseason isn't going to be much different than last. It's like the same holes that need to be filled. Weirdly enough, I mean, the offense dipped way harder than we anticipated.
Yeah,
right?
No kidding.
So if the question is Aaron Judge,
Nah.
I don't know, man. I think a lot of it has to do with who's going to own this team, who's writing the checks. A lot of, I mean, like, it's really hard. I don't envy you. It's really hard to answer those questions right now because there's this massive dark cloud looming over Anaheim right now.
Yeah.
A dark cloud that can disappear quickly, hopefully. Does that happen? It'd have to be quick, man. And these things can happen quick, but they also could be very slow, if that makes any sense. With that all being aside, I still don't think they're going to go after like a shortstop. I don't think they're going to go get Correa or nothing like that again.
Right.
I just don't see that happening. I don't think, I mean, a lot of it will again have to do with who owns it, but Perry doesn't seem to be in that world. I think catcher is pretty much, I wouldn't say shored up, but the future is bright. For the first time since what? Mathis, like straight up, like Martin Maldonado maybe, but I mean, Martin Maldonado was not who Martin Maldonado is. Let's be real. And Mike Napoli was not Mike Napoli before he became Mike Napoli.
Right.
So I think the catcher position is pretty well shored up. I think they make a legitimate pass at trying to get Noah back. I think that would be a smart move. I mean, why not? Why not? He was completely formidable, and he was honestly like everything you could have wanted.
Yeah.
Like, numbers wise, like percentage of outings that were strong, like from a 3-4, like there's really not much more you can ask for.
Especially in that first year back too, coming off. I know he pitched a little bit in 21, but it was like an inning and a third.
Yeah, it was like 17 pitches. So I think they might make a legitimate pass at Noah again. I would expect that since, he had mentioned that from when he left, was like, yeah, I'd be interested. And the Angels were like, yeah, we might be a little interested, like hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So we'll see. If the Phillies come in with an offer, I think they beat the Angels on that because he's playing in the World Series right now. So yeah, I think that Noah was a good fit here in Anaheim. And I think that the fans took to him and the team took to him. and I really, really liked him, and I really miss him. I miss Marshy too. I really miss those guys.
That one
I'm
hurts.
so happy for them. My gosh, I'm so happy for
Yeah.
Brandon Marsh right now.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, I think you know, they're gonna try and shore up the starter. I think the starter front. But I think the number one question is Shohei. How do you handle that situation? If you're gonna sell, like if he's not coming back in 2024, right? Like bye. Like let's go. Like what are we doing? What are we doing? Like I would love for Shohei Ohtani to play 20 years in an Angels uniform. Sure.
Right.
But I also would love to win a World Series.
Right.
Yeah.
So those two things, while not mutually exclusive, don't seem very likely right now together. And look, every World Series winner in the history of baseball has done it without a Shohei Ohtani. So it's possible. We know that it is possible.
Yeah.
If anything, it is impossible with one for whatever reason. So while I would love to have him back, he's not irreplaceable. Right. Yes, it would take two guys to fill that void.
Right. An ace.
But again, there's now 26 men on that roster, not 25. So you can fill that. So it's not impossible. Again, every team has ever won it has done it without him. I love the guy to death. I would love for him to be here. That question needs to be answered, and I think that needs to be answered. Probably the first thing that needs to be answered as soon as the new owner takes over.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. We've talked about some of those rumored trades, and John and I actually covered one of them that was from Bleacher Report to the Dodgers trading for Shohei Ohtani, and there were like 6
Everybody.
players. And those players were fantastic. Those players were going to fill all the holes that
Dustin
we had
May,
on the team.
Please.
Yeah, he's part of it.
Dustin May,
He's
please.
great.
I mean,
he's fantastic.
And like Walker Buehler, honestly. Honestly, like it takes a lot to get Shohei. I think with it, you would have obviously gotten more this year out of it, right? If you had done it, because you had 2 years. Now you only get the 1, and you're really banking on being able to sign him. That's why the Soto deal garnered so much back, right? Is because you had those extra years. You don't have that luxury anymore. So I think that stock kind of dips just a hair, ever so slightly. But no contender is going to say no to Shohei flat out. That's just impossible to think about.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, especially after his second half last year. I mean, the guy, there was a game where he was struggling, and we knew he needed to come out. And so he's like, no, let me finish this guy off. And he threw like 3 back-to-back 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. And then he walks off the mound. And you know, like that was a piece of cake. I mean, imagine this guy in the World Series. Imagine this guy, you know, on the Yankees, for example. Everybody kept comparing the fact that he was 4-1 against the Astros. You know, they might be a player, right?
Like I said, I worked in the Yankees system this past year. Very strong. It is a very strong system. It got weaker at the deadline, the Montas deal and the F. Ross deal. Like those deals really hurt the system, but it hurt the system at the top. So if you're looking for frontline guys now, and if you're going, we need a shortstop, the Yankees have 3. They got Peraza, they got Cabrera, they got Volpe, and I've watched them all this year. They are all legit. Obviously, Peraza, Cabrera already. They're there. Maybe make it out of camp. We'll see what the Yankees end up doing. Volpe's close. He struggled a lot after, you know, he had like 5-6 incredible games once he got called up to us in AAA, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. But that, like, if you're thinking Shohei to New York, it's one of those 3, maybe 2, like straight up. Like, and the Yankees are obviously all in, right? Like they buy. That would be, I think that is a very potential likely suitor. If you're thinking who makes sense, the Yankees really do make sense, and they got a lot of frontline pitching too in high A, double A right now. They got some guys, so
you got to get in the ears of some of those people over there, Steve.
I don't have any control of that.
Well, hey, Steve, we appreciate you jumping on with us. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm at Steve Granado on everything, Twitter, TikTok, Insta. Check out my line of merch that still exists. I'm wearing it now on the YouTube side. It is linked on it's linked on everything I have. So go check it out. There's a couple of cool shirts over there.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. Now, for your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. They share some of the biggest stories of the day, like Brandon Marsh's home run, which was so awesome to see in last night's game, plus instant reaction, big game recaps, and their take of the day. And they're available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure to give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter. You can reach the show there, and you can reach Mike and I at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Mr. Steve Granado, it was a pleasure having you on with us. Thanks for coming back on and just being a voice for Angel fans and being a voice for Locked On Angels and paving the way and setting Mike and I up for success this season. We really appreciate, you setting us up for success and making it an easy transition. So all the best to you, my friend, and thank you for jumping on with us. Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, you guys got my blood running again. I'm like, ooh, let's do this again. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. There's always a seat at the table on Locked On Angels for you, my friend.
Absolutely. Hey, Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
John, well, since we had Steve on, why don't we have Brent McGuire on the show tomorrow? How about that? Huh? So we're going through the whole Hall of Fame, and so we're going to have Brent McGuire on the show, and we'll ask him the same questions we asked Steve. We got to fill content, right?
Everybody, get them all in.
We're going to need you to listen, Steve, and see if Brent's answers are as good as your answers. Just so you go.
So much smarter to evaluate. He's so much smarter than me. He'll give you
smarter
so much
than
better
everybody.
stuff.
Yes. So Brent McGuire is going to join us tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, y'all. We hope you'll join us for that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Angels, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.